that. So a reminder, if you are still settling into your space, if you are choosing to sit on the floor for this practice, because we're going to be here for a while, it might feel good to have a cushion, a pillow, a blanket, maybe something you can sit on to support what we call your sits bones, which is your lower back, your bum. Because even if you're sitting on a rug or something and it feels like good, when you're sitting for a while, that can kind of jam up the lower back space and make things feel a little bit tight. So that cushioning or having that pillow or something to sit on can create some space back there. If you're choosing to lie down, which is totally welcome, I do invite you to bend your knees. Meditation, because it can just take us to this place where we float. Sometimes it might invite us to go to sleep. And while sleep is a beautiful thing, and I always say if that happens, then you needed that rest. But sleep is considered an altered state of consciousness, and meditation is a practice that invites us to be present. So maybe bending the knees or bringing your arms out to the side, or something that just keeps a sense of awareness in your body. So if you want to add that, if you're lying down, and then otherwise just making sure you're nice and comfortable wherever you are, having all of the things that help you to create a sacred space. So I had some Palo Santo. So if you have sage or a candle, or you want to hold space for a loved one, an ancestor, maybe have their picture nearby, or some kind of memento. So something that will just really allow you to create the space that you need in this moment. And then with that, let us go ahead and officially get started. So you might see me glancing off to the side for a little bit. I just want to make sure I have, I kind of follow my notes. I had some things I wanted to make sure to share. The first being who I am. So most of you who are on here, I do know, but for those who are new to me, Rachel Voss, I'm Rachel, and I have been formally teaching yoga and meditation and just healing arts practices since 2013. It is my passion, it is my purpose, it is my calling. It is work that truly, truly, truly brings me joy, because these practices have been so good for me in terms of healing from the inside out. And that's really how I approach and teach these practices. So some folks might come to the practice of yoga through the gym, or just seeing like a really cool pose on Instagram, and they kind of think like, oh, that's what it is. And then soon as you do a couple of practices, you realize like yoga is much more than just a physical thing. It truly is a practice that facilitates inside out healing and inside out work. And so these practices brought so much to my life, so much fulfillment, so much awareness, that it really brings me joy to share this practice with others, and to see them grow, from these beautiful practices of yoga and meditation. And so, yeah, I've been teaching since 2013. Since 2015, I made it a full-time journey, transitioning out of the corporate world and into this work full-time. And that journey has been beautiful and scary and challenging and up and down and all of the things. But every time I'm in a space like this and I hold a space like this, I'm reminded of why I made that choice, because I'm just led, to share and hold space with such beautiful, beautiful, like-minded souls and spirits. So truly is my passion and purpose. So yeah, that's me, Rachel Voss. And my work is Rachel Voss Yoga and Wellness. And if you know me, or you follow me, or you heard of me, or if you kind of follow me from here on out, you'll notice that I say find your free a lot. And find your free kind of came out of my journey of finding my own personal sense of freedom. And that started with my yoga journey. And then it became the message that I share in all of these offerings. So finding your sense of freedom, whatever that means for you, but a life that feels authentic and heart-centered and joyful and all of that. So find your free is my thing. And so why this meditation? So again, some of you on here know me, so it's kind of been a little bit of a bumpy road for me over these past couple of months, these past 6 or 7 months. So my family, we made a transition from Maryland to Georgia. I'm originally from New Jersey, and then lived in Maryland for about 20 years. And then we moved from there to Georgia in August. And then shortly after moving here, about 2 months after we moved here, a colleague and a friend, she passed away from a very long and valiant battle with cancer. And then a month after that, my dad, who is my best friend, he passed away. And then a few months after that, well, actually 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago now, our beloved Pooch, Frenchie, died. And she was the first dog I ever owned, a dog I adopted right after I quit my job. And it was funny because I'm like, I gotta figure out how to save the money, but yet I'm adding another mouth to feed. But it was something I felt called to do. And I'm so glad I honored that calling, because, oh my gosh, the unconditional love that I have learned from that little 15-pound Pooch. She taught us so much. And so there's just been a lot of grief and a lot of loss and a lot of processing and a lot of transition. And it's just felt heavy for me. And some days I feel kind of like empty. And then some days I'm like, okay, I've got this. And, but just going through all of this. And then, we have this war that just kind of started, right? And so just kind of looking at how people are trying to hold space just collectively for what we're all witnessing, and then just knowing what I'm experiencing and what other people have experienced and are experiencing on a personal level, it just felt important to me to just hold space for all of it. Because that's truly, again, the work that I feel called to do, to take the experiences that help me grow, that stretch me, no matter how uncomfortable they may be, but to turn that into something that can be shared and transmuted into something just beautiful, where we can grow, and sort of not be stunted by the pain, but learn to live with it and coexist, with this very big thing called grief. So that is why I'm holding this space. And so, yeah, I just thought it would be good to hold this for community, to offer community for anybody who needs it. Again, what we're all witnessing collectively is it's just sad. It's very sad, and it's constant, and it's kind of hard to say, I don't want to see what's going on, but then it's, you have to know what's going on, right? And so I just thought, in light of all of that, like, let's just get together and hold community. And what's really beautiful about this virtual space is that even though we're all, wherever we are at home, or, whatever we're doing in the car, maybe watching on the phone, whatever it is, we are all still sharing this experience together. And there's something that brought us to share this experience together. Hey, Dr. Tinsley, I'm going to turn your camera off just because I'm keeping the space just safe for recording purposes and everything. So I know you just popped in. Thank you and welcome. I think I lost my train of thought there, but so I think that's probably my reminder anyway to get started. So what this will be is a guided meditation. So we'll take some time to settle in. We'll take some time with our breath, and then we're going to do a little bit of a visualization, and then come out of that, and then just return to our journeys, hopefully feeling a little more peaceful, a little more anchored, and just a little more filled with love. So please go ahead and find your comfortable seat or space if you haven't found that already. And let's go ahead and take a moment to find a tall spine. So if you are sitting just sort of rounded or slouched in the back, lengthen the spine, drop your shoulders. And if you're lying on your back, I invite you to notice if you're feeling any compression in the back of your neck. And so sometimes that can feel like the chin is pointing up a little too high towards the ceiling. So if you are feeling that, bring your chin down slightly to your chest, so you're feeling alignment between the back of the head, the back of the neck, and the rest of your spine. And then again, just taking a nice deep breath in. Let's draw that breath deep from the belly. Inhale. And I invite you to exhale a nice full deep breath out through the mouth. Just inviting yourself to the space. You might rest your hands on your thighs with the palms facing down to create a sense of grounding. Or maybe it feels good to drape the wrist over the knees with the palms facing down. Or if it speaks to you, to rest your hands on your belly or your womb space or your heart. Maybe one hand on the heart, one hand on the belly. Or again, if you are lying down, maybe you just have the arms out to the side. So just finding a way to settle into the body that just feels comfortable, that makes you feel at home. Home. And that reminds me of what I was saying, the train of thought I lost before, but I was saying, even though we're all in these different virtual spaces, like we're sharing the space collectively, right? Like we've all been through something or are going through something or witnessing something that is a collective sort of experience, right? Because we're all here. And so we're experiencing oneness in this way because we're all here at the same place, the same time. And so maybe you're feeling that sense of oneness. Maybe you're feeling that sense of connection with yourself, with the others who are sharing the space with you. If it speaks to you, you might close the eyes very gently. So noticing that you're not squeezing the lids shut, but just letting the lids gently close over the eyes. And if closing the eyes doesn't feel safe for you, there's always the option of keeping your eyes open, finding a soft gaze. Maybe very gently focusing your gaze somewhere in the room or the floor. I invite you to take another beautiful deep breath in, drawing that breath in from the belly, up through the lungs, into the chest. And exhale, releasing a nice full breath out through the mouth. Feeling your shoulders soften, your jawline relax. So maybe you're noticing you're holding your teeth tightly together, sort of clenching the teeth. Maybe you can soften that, leaving a little bit of space between the teeth, or maybe opening and closing the mouth a few times to very gently relax your jaw. Drawing in another deep breath from the belly. Exhaling out through the mouth. Just maybe beginning to notice in the body where there may still be some tension or tightness. Maybe you're noticing movement in the mind, and that movement might be causing the tension in the body, or maybe you're having tension in the body that's causing tension in the mind. So just seeing if you can notice, right, that mind-body experience. What we experience in one tends to be the experience in the other, or at least can feed into the experience of the other. Just allow yourself to notice what you notice without judgment. So we're just being the witness here. And sometimes I like to offer the idea of maybe picturing yourself standing outside of yourself and just really noticing everything that's going on in this moment inside of you. Using your breath to soften when you feel tightness, to soften when you feel your body tense. Returning to the breath if the mind feels distracted. And just remembering that as we move through this practice tonight. So if your mind wanders, and it just is sort of the way it works, right? Like when we come to this place of stillness is when the mind seems to want to take off. And so the goal is not to judge ourselves. The goal is not to try and force those thoughts to stop. The goal is just to notice, take a breath, and with that exhale, come right back to the present. So if you can sort of really feel yourself anchor your mind to your breath. Just noticing your inhales and your exhales. Maybe you notice the belly expands or pops out a little bit as you take a deep breath in. Now the navel very gently falls back to the spine as you take a deep breath out. And as you just continue to breathe in this fashion, to notice, to soften, I'm going to share a few passages from a book called Prayers of Honor and Grief by the author Pixie Lighthorse. And it's a collection of different prayers that are just around the grief process. And so had this book for, I guess, a couple of years now. And it's just been such a beneficial tool for me. And so there were just a couple of paragraphs she wrote in the introduction that I thought would be just beneficial to share and to open the space with. And so as you continue to breathe and settle in, I'll share these words. Meeting with grief can feel like walking through cobwebs into an alternate world, seeing the bones and the wounds and bravely offering to tend them. Facing grief asks you to empathize with your pain, the pain of others, and Earth's pain too. Grief deserves your resources, just as fun and joy deserve their place in your vast cosmology of emotions. It is worthwhile to make time and space for sifting through the hurts and healing them. We are routinely cultured to, quote unquote, get on with it from an early age, instructed not to waste time lingering in negativity. When the alternative is avoidance, we actually become more fragile, though we are taught to believe the opposite. Grief remains in the systems of the body, informing our lives in subtle and subversive ways in the form of fear, anxiety, and depression. The whole map of our lives changes when grief is stored away silently. It directs our decisions, impairs or inflates our willingness to take risks, and continues to have its way with us. Toxic, amputated, dishonest, denied, neglected, mutated grief causes disharmony in the body and spirit. Prayers strengthen our relationship to inner wisdom and our connection to all that exists outside of us. Pray not for yourself to have your grief taken from you, but to learn to hold it and to be held by the spirits of your ancestors while at the altar. Honor grief by showing up for it. You will find that grief has a way of equalizing all people. Not one of us, even a small child, is without it. And so I love that, especially like the oneness, right? So that's what I mean when I say like we're in these virtual spaces, but we're sharing the space collectively because we have all experienced grief, whether it's the love of a lost one, or the loss of a loved one, the loss of a pet, the loss of a job, again, just witnessing this war, the grief that has come with the shifting of life, right? Since this pandemic started, maybe you had a dream once that didn't pan out. And so all of us experience grief in all these different ways. And it is the great equalizer in that way, because that's something that no matter what walk of life we come from, no matter, what we're doing, like at some point in time, we're all going to lose, somebody or something that we love. It's just sort of part of it, right? Sort of part of the path. And so when I was really going through it with my dad, and that was a unique kind of grief because my father had dementia. And so there was a long period of grief while he was still alive, right? The loss of the relationship that we had that was like suddenly taken by this disease. And so grieving while somebody's in the body, and anticipatory grief, as my stepmama taught me, when you sort of know that what the outcome is going to be, more so than just if the person were healthy or, as you knew them, but they're in this place where you're like, well, I know where this road is going to go. And like, you're grieving the grief that's about to come. Right. So that was like a really unique and heavy space, because it was like grief. And then when he passed, and there was that. And so when I was in that space, a teacher that my stepmother loves, and that I love as well, Tara Brock, I listened to a lot of her talks around that time just to help keep me grounded and anchored. And she does these beautiful talks on grief and just being present, like really being present with it, right? And so we know there are those stages of grief where there's denial and anger and all these different things. And she talks about all of that. And what really resonated with me was that idea of to be present with it, to hold space for it, and to not just to be present with it in a way like, oh, I feel sad, I'm going to cry, but to really hold it in a way that you know what I mean? Like you're coexisting with it, right? Like you're not saying this is not happening, And so, in other words, when my father did leave his body and when he did transition, it was like I couldn't deny it, right? It was something that happened. And the awareness of it, and I was so grateful, to have those Tara Brach talks to work with, because the awareness of it, instead of denying it, it allowed me to make a choice, right? So say there was a day where I was like having a good day, and then I think of my dad, and then I start to feel myself start to sink, and it's like, but I've got so much stuff I gotta do, like in this moment, right? And I want to be sad and I want to give in, but right now I have to make the choice, to say, okay, I love you, daddy. I'm gonna come back and be sad later, but right now I got to do this thing, right? And so it's not so much that it's like, no, this is not happening. It's more like, okay, this is happening. I'm aware, but this is how I'm going to choose to respond, right? And then on those days where it feels like I can't get out the bed, then I don't get out the bed, right? Because there's that too. And so it's really about having the awareness of it, and being present with it as a way of just still being connected to life. Because when we avoid the grief, or we don't hold space for the grief, or we deny it, or we put it away, we're ultimately keeping ourselves disconnected from life. And the goal of all of this, right, is to stay as connected as possible so that life can be as full and enriching as possible. So so that's why I love what is shared in these passages. Like, try not or we don't want to ask to have the grief taken from us, but rather, how can I live with it, right? How can I coexist with it? How can I use this as a way to honor my ancestors? And so, yeah, that's why I felt called to share that. All right, so now let's get ready to move through our guided meditation. We'll just take another few deep breaths here. Grab a sip of water if you need that, a sip of tea, just whatever you need in this moment, honoring your body. Just allowing yourself, giving yourself permission to feel whatever might be coming up for you right now. Reminding yourself you are safe, you are held by this beautiful community. Feel your breath. One of the beautiful lessons that I really learned, especially with my dad and little Frenchie, is the idea that on the other side of love is grief, right? And grief is just sort of this unexpressed love, because when the person leaves, it's like, or the thing leaves, it's not that the love for it goes away, you know? And so the more you feel the grief, right, it's like the more you were blessed to love. And just seeing if you can find that or feel that. Or maybe even just make the invitation for that. How can I find the love in the grief? How can I hold space for both? Take another deep breath in. Exhale. And just finding that comfortable seat or space. If you are sitting on a couch or a chair, somewhere where your feet are planted on the floor, just make sure you notice that. Notice that the feet feel grounded. Maybe uncross your ankles. Just letting the body be open. Tune into your breath. Inhale and exhale. And as you begin to settle in here, just noticing the breath, in your mind's eye, I invite you to go to a place that just speaks to you, a place that makes you feel nourished or loved, or grounded, connected. So maybe you have a favorite bench in the park. Maybe it's the middle of a field that's just covered in sunshine and purple flowers. Or maybe it's the beach. Just finding a place within that just feels like home, comfort for you. And when you arrive at that place, take a moment to notice what's around you. So if you're in that field, maybe you're feeling the sun in your face. If you're at the beach, maybe you're feeling the water on your feet, sand in your fingers. If it's your favorite park bench, maybe there's a tree nearby, favorite tree, or just noticing people, just walking by, and you're just observing. Just really feeling yourself in this place, still breathing. And as you are sitting in this very favorite, loving place of yours, maybe someone or something comes along that in the distance is just a familiar shape, a familiar walk, familiar stance, familiar smell. And as this being comes closer, maybe you recognize them as someone that you said goodbye to, who you hold dearly in your heart. Maybe it's a pet. Maybe it's a dream. And if no one or no thing specifically comes to mind, just picture light in you, around you. And maybe it's wanting to send this collective, loving, healing energy just into the world, right? Just being connected with the grief in the world. And so maybe that's what you're feeling, that's what you're experiencing. If it is a loved one, just invite them to be with you. Take them in. Their smile, their eyes, their smell, their touch. Just take these few moments just to be. Maybe you're feeling love, maybe you're feeling joy, maybe you're feeling sadness. Just allow yourself to notice. Remembering you're safe, you're loved. Whatever feels like it wants to come up, whatever feels like it wants to come out, allow it to come up, allow it to come out. Maybe you've been avoiding the pain because you just don't want to feel it, right? Totally natural, that's totally human. We want to give ourselves permission to let those things up and out. Just giving ourselves permission to process these very real emotions. Because what happens is when we process, when we release, when we let go, when we step in to it all, right? It allows for clearing and openness. It allows us to coexist with this in a more fulfilling way. In a way where we feel like we can still breathe, we can still experience joy, we can still be connected to life. Just continue being with this person or these people or your pet or whatever the being is. Maybe you're continuing to send this light into the world, this love. And just continue to breathe in and out. Maybe saying something you wish you had said, you're sharing something, telling them you love them, telling them thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Continuing to breathe in and out. If you're in the field, continuing to feel the sun. If you're on the beach, continuing to feel the sand and the water. Maybe you're even able to connect with the message that is being shared with you in this space. Maybe your ancestors have been waiting for this moment. So you're taking in this moment, just a few more breaths. This being who has come along to share this space with you has to begin to make their retreat back into the light. So maybe you're saying thank you. Maybe you're saying I love you. And then it's just you as you were sitting before the being came along. But something is different now. The feeling in your heart, the feeling in your body. And that feeling is always there. It's always there. And that is why we want to process the grief and feel the things and coexist with the things, because that clearing that is opened up is the clearing to unconditional love. That place where we are always, always connected. And truly unconditional love is exactly as it sounds. There are no conditions. It's that love that exists beyond space, beyond time, beyond physical barriers and boundaries. The love that can never be taken, the love that can never be replaced, the love that is always yours to have. And that is why we want to learn to hold the grief and not have it taken from us, because when we have it removed or we ask to have it taken away, we're taking away that invitation to this place, that interconnectedness. This is the same place where we are all connected as one, with each other, with the universe, with the world around us. Just take a few more breaths in this space. Breathe it in. Safe, you are loved. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Continuing to breathe in, out. I'm going to share one of the passages of prayer from Prayers of Honoring Grief. And this passage is called Honoring Acceptance. Thank you for this day of sitting bravely with what has moved through me. Help me agree to cooperate with the past. I am receptive to what comes next. Give me the green light to settle into my new way of being with this version of my pain. I will not oppose or fight against what comes my way, but commit to reverence of my innate ability to heal. Help me resolve and diffuse my reactions to what still haunts me. Keep me honest about what I have worked through and what continues to require love and attention. Remind me that resolution does not mean that I will not feel my scars tingling with the memory of what happened. Magnify my ability to legitimize what hurt me. Tune me into the truth that suffering doesn't go away completely for me or anyone else. Bring peace to my jagged edges with each admission of what is real for me and for all. Teach me to respect my right to feel without blaming others. Help me stand up for my feelings so they do not become an avalanche again. I consent to honor myself with frequent tributes, awareness, clarity, and check-ins. Help me create the space that I need in order to be with all aspects of myself. Remind me not to stash pain away or hide it in shame. Help me wear my medals openly and collaborate with the persistent effects of suffering. Help me to reshape my being according to who I am in my heart and have always been. Help me opt for authenticity and integrity over convenience and the power of old fears. Just taking a few moments to let the words resonate. Just honoring yourself for making this time for yourself to sit with these very real feelings that come with the grief experience. Grief doesn't look the same for every person, so don't judge yourself or be hard on yourself for how it has shown up for you or how you have shown up for it. And know that if you are here in this space right now, you are doing the work, and that's what matters. To keep finding that way, to keep putting one foot in front of the other, giving yourself permission to continue experiencing joy and love, allowing your heart to continue to be open. And if you don't have a practice of working with your ancestors and it speaks to you, I invite you or offer to make an altar that has belongings from your different ancestors, pictures, your dog's collar, your cat's collar, whatever it is. If that doesn't speak to you, maybe just a small space, a plant with a picture next to it. But instead of putting our loved ones away and sort of boxing them up so we don't have to feel it, I want to continue to celebrate them because they were a part of us. They were a part of our lives. And we want to celebrate and love and honor them. And even though it might feel very difficult right now, in time, it will start to feel like peace. And you'll learn to have a very real relationship that goes beyond conditions, that is based in unconditional love. And you'll feel them in the trees and the air and the birds and the wind and the rain. Because they're still with us in their own way, loving us from the light. I invite you to take a nice full deep breath in here. Exhale fully out through the mouth. You might invite gentle awareness into the body, retreating from whatever beautiful space you might be in. Maybe wiggling your fingers or your toes, or if you're lying on your back and you have your knees bent, maybe you're rocking the knees from side to side. Maybe gently turning your head from side to side and tilting your head up and down. And when you feel ready, the eyes are closed, I invite you to very gently open the eyes. If you had a soft gaze, just coming back into that sense of full awareness. And if you are still where you are and you need to be there, then honor that. Honor that. That was beautiful. That was really beautiful. I could feel it. I could feel the love. I could feel the connection. And that's just why, again, these practices are so important. You know, they help us to process, they help us to manage, they help us to connect. And I am so grateful that I've had these practices to help me navigate all of this transition I've been managing. And yes, the movement on the yoga mat has been helpful, but it's just the actual practice of it, right? The actual just being present, because that's what these practices invite. So just again, thank you for just allowing yourself to show up, giving yourself permission to show up. Thank you for sharing this space with me, and just for allowing me to guide you through this space, because it is just as helpful and healing for me as I hope it is for you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And so we will close out formally, but I will hang out with the chat box, and just I'm going to pop in a couple of things if you want to stay connected with me. I meant to do that at the beginning of the session, but so I'll just pop in my website, and I am holding a very gentle yoga practice this Saturday, Saturday at 10 a.m. So if that's something to be interested in, we're going to do more meditation, gentle movement, card reading, guided rest. So I'll put all that information in. But before we do all of those things, you want to just bring your hands together to the heart if that speaks to you, or rest your hands at your heart, finding that tall spine again, closing the eyes if that feels good. And again, just taking this moment to honor yourself for making this time for yourself and for your loved ones. Telling yourself silently or out loud, thank you. I love you. I trust you. I forgive you. And together, let's take one more full deep breath in. Exhale out. May we all be happy. May we all be free. May we all be peaceful, easeful, useful, and joyful. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining. And namaste. So thank you so much. That is how I end every offering. And so I'm gonna go ahead and pop my website in here and a couple of, so the book, yes. So the book is called Prayers of Honoring Grief by Pixie Lighthorse. So I'm gonna go ahead and put that in the chat box as well. And I love that name, Pixie Lighthorse. Let's see. Pixie Lighthorse. And then just a few other offerings that I have available. So I did start the Find Your Free Book Club, which is a totally free book club. It's a little bit of a hack to get me to read some books that I've been meaning to read. We had our first meeting last month. We read The Untethered Soul, and it was so beautiful, such a beautiful space. We read a book and meet once a month on Sundays, on a Sunday from 2 to 4. Our next book is The Alchemist. We're reading that now, so you can also find that on my website. And so if you want to join that, you really just have to pick up the book, start reading, and join us. And then again, I am leading a gentle yoga class this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 11:30 a.m. And then again, if you want to stay connected with me, rachelvossyoga.com, all of my stuff is there. And then if you're on the socials, you can find me at Rachel Voss Yoga on Instagram, and same with Facebook. Ashe, Sierra, Ashe, thank you so much for joining. Sierra is in Senegal, I believe. So thank you so much. And apologies if it's the wrong country. Thank you so much to everyone for joining. Thank you, Dr. Tinsley. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you. Thank you, Miss Barbara, Jackie, Rochelle, Judy, and everyone.